Earlier this week, I was teaching an executive education course on AI law and policy, and when I covered the 10-year AI ban that President Trump had snuck into his big beautiful bill, the room lit up with questions. What does that mean for the AI state bills that have already passed? Is this deregulatory? Is this about China? So let's unpack what's going on, and spoiler alert, crypto is actually going to help us do that. First, the surprise of this ban. The House recently passed Trump's big beautiful bill, and sitting in the Senate, the bill right now is over 1,000 pages, and buried inside is a small section that addresses AI. This small section bans states for the next 10 years from passing or implementing any AI laws. Even MTG was so surprised that she's now come out saying that that clause stays in. She's going to vote against it. So what's in the bill? There's two principal pieces. The first part is a 10-year ban, which they call moratorium, from allowing states to implement or pass any laws or regulations about AI. Second is a $500 million earmark for the federal government to buy commercial AI tools to modernize the federal government. It also create a permanent dependence on these private vendors that will have to pay to update, maintain, license these systems from them. Even if the systems do get modernized, the workforce isn't. Now, third thing, let's really unpack this moratorium. We should understand this ban to be nothing more than a naked power grab. Why? Because this isn't how federal preemption works. When the federal government preempts state laws, meaning that the federal government is saying we're going to take priority in this space, it's because they actually have a national framework to offer. And the general thinking is, look, we don't want people to have conflicting frameworks, especially for an area where people are going to go across state borders to do a lot of it. A classic example is the stock market. Before the Securities and Exchange Commission of the 1930s, every state had its own state securities laws. You had to get registered and licensed at the state level. Now, federal securities laws preempt the state laws. In this case, Trump is saying, no one can pass a law, no one can regulate unless I say so. And I'm not even going to offer a law. Whether or not this clause survives is almost irrelevant because the audacity to propose a preemption of states coming from the party typically known for states' rights is already bonkers and underscores how naked this power grab is. What's actually a little absurd about the whole thing too is that it's not even necessary yet. Brookings has found that last year 700 state laws were being discussed, but only 8 states have actually passed anything yet. And most of those address very narrow issues like employment tools or the use of facial recognition. And what's being lost in this discussion is that by not proposing any national AI framework and blocking the states from proposing their own, Trump is intentionally setting up AI for the very thing he criticized government for when it came to crypto. Here's what I mean. For years in the crypto space, we were hearing about how crypto players really wanted clear rules of the road for them to operate. And what they got instead was a lot of ad hoc litigation and enforcement. The result of this was that the good actors lost incentives to be good actors and play by the rules because there weren't rules on the books. Bad actors have flooded the space, and regulators were enforcing laws that weren't purpose-built for crypto. And as we saw in the last election cycle, the crypto industry was so upset that they set up a $260 million super PAC. If Trump blocks states from passing rules or even experimenting with rules that might encourage innovation, but also refuses a federal playbook, then we're headed for the same kind of chaos we've had with the crypto industry for years. Companies and startups exposed to a lot of lawsuits that they don't know where it's coming from. Regulators stretching consumer protection laws, copyright laws, antitrust laws to cover harms that they weren't initially designed for. And a public left confused and unprotected while more bad actors come into this space. So this little ban that got tucked in actually matters a lot for the signal we're getting on emerging tech regulation under Trump. The punchline seems to be that all things must go through him, the states will have no voice, and a few private companies are going to be big winners. And what's really unfortunate is that the Democrats aren't taking this moment to drive home this point with the public and with the tech industry to get them back on their side. Instead, they're just sitting around eating popcorn, trying to score more points on how much they don't like Trump. It's not a strategy to not stand for something, especially when the Democrats are being given these kinds of golden opportunities to recapture voters, tech voters, young male voters that have only recently left the party. I hope you found this useful. Drop a comment if you have questions.